I'd like to know your response to a homesteading video that I saw. Reuse everything. Don't throw anything away because it's precious and will come in handy.
There are a couple rooms in my house I've been through 2 or 3 times, and I'm wondering how you know when to stop decluttering a room.
How do you stop the overwhelming fear of letting go of things that people have given you?
What's the longest amount of time you have ever gone without cleaning?
I was just asking about decluttering when you have a child with special needs, specifically autism.
Is there a better way to manage the toys for my older kids, where my youngest doesn't always get into everything? Or can you just remind me again it's only for a season?
Welcome to the Minimal Mom Podcast, where simplicity meets inspiration on your journey to a clutter-free and intentional life. Join us each week as we dive into practical tips, real-life stories, and expert interviews to guide you through the art of decluttering, intentional living, and finding joy in the simple moments. Whether you're a seasoned minimalist or just starting your journey, we're here to help you create a life with less stuff and more meaning. Let's declutter our homes, minds, and lives together. This is the Minimal Mom Podcast.
I'd like to know your response to a homesteading video that I saw where he said, reuse everything. Don't throw anything away because it's precious and will come in handy. And he reuses and repurposes everything for the homesteading lifestyle.
Ooh, this is tricky territory. I witnessed this firsthand at my grandparents' farm. They kept everything. And there were many times if you needed something, it was like, oh, go to the shop, or go over there, go to that building, and you'll find that thing or something that you could use or something that you could use to fix or repair something. And so I understand the logic. And I also understand that takes a ton of time and energy to manage that inventory if you're not going to throw things away. Also, I have to imagine many homesteaders, they don't consume as much stuff, I think, as maybe the rest of us. I mean, don't get me wrong, homesteading requires all its own gizmos and gadgets and all the things. But I would think the truest traditionalist homesteaders aren't having like Amazon deliveries and all of these other like fast fashion things and different things that the rest of us might be consuming. What I really think it comes down to, though, is how do you want to spend your time and energy? How do you want to spend this one precious life that you have been given? And I mentioned when I did the Mexico recap video after our mission trip to Mexico that I came home and I was just like, I want to get rid of more. I don't want to spend any extra time and energy maintaining stuff. I want to figure out how I can get back down to Dorothy's house and spending more time down there and helping more down there and just helping other people in general. I don't want to spend my time managing stuff. And so sometimes I think what happens when we have this mindset of I have to keep everything is useful, is that it totally sidetracks us and derails us from what we actually would like to be spending our time with. So we can choose to do that and to keep everything. I mean, because really probably almost everything you could think of some other purpose or use for. Or we could say, I don't think that's the highest and best use of my time and how I want to spend my life. And so I'm going to let this stuff go, trusting that if I do need this thing again or something like it, I can usually come by it pretty easily, or I can borrow it from a neighbor or go without. I mean, I've just even been thinking a lot about how it is okay to have some discomfort sometimes and to not have the exact thing I would like for everything that I do. So sometimes to feel that discomfort is actually a good feeling, kind of like when you work out and you're sore afterwards, but you're like, yeah, but it's because I did a good thing. And so sometimes if I feel that inconvenience of like, oh, I had something I could have used for this, I don't more, I have that similar feeling of like, but yeah, but whatever, because my house is simple. I have more peace of mind. Everything about our household goes so much more smoothly. So it's worth the trade-off and it's worth the cost. And I'm totally fine with that. And I can experience a little discomfort every once in a while. And in a way, it kind of feels good. Right. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's just we each get to choose how we want to spend our time and energy. And for you to decide, is that how you want to spend your time and energy, or do you want to let him have his view on that, and then you get to decide for yourself where that line is for you?
How you know when to stop decluttering a room. I'm trying to work on those decluttering muscles, and there are a couple rooms in my house I've been through 2 or 3 times, and I'm not sure if I should be working out those decluttering muscles more or if I've reached a good point where I can stop.
That's a really good question. I mean, could say without even seeing your house or knowing how far you've gone that you could probably go further. When you get to the place where you know your house is really simplified, and it's, in some ways it's kind of elusive because we never arrive. We're always continuing to maintain it and, to reevaluate the things in it. But I think you will know when you get there because you're going to have so much peace and you are going to just care so little about your physical things. I think that's probably what has changed for me. Over the last year, I've gone a lot further with simplifying and decluttering. And even since we've gotten back from Mexico, I've gone further. And I'm like, oh, interesting. I still don't miss any of this stuff. In fact, I feel even more removed from it, like even more like, who cares? It is just physical stuff. The things that matter are the people and the relationships and all of that, right? And so I would challenge you to keep going further. Again, not having any idea of how far you've actually gone or what your house looks like right now. Because I think when you get there, you'll know. An initial guideline from when we first got started, I really wanted to be able to pick up any room in our house in 5 minutes or less. So even if the kids came through and pulled everything out, like if you imagine it in its worst state that it might get in a week, I really wanted to be able to pull it back together quickly. So that was my initial guideline. And that in and of itself caused me to go further than I would have thought I needed to in many of the spaces in our home. And so I think that can be a good guideline. But then beyond that, I would encourage you, because it sounds like you're open-minded, to keep going further. I don't want to repeat myself, but I still am just so surprised at how little I miss the stuff and how much freedom comes from not having to manage so many physical things. And so I really want that for you too, because these physical things, they really don't add a lot of value. There's a few things we need and we're so grateful for, but the bulk of it still, I would imagine as you look around, you're keeping for just in case or someday, or, like, oh, maybe it might be nice to have this as an option. And when you really start to peel that stuff away too, and you're okay with the risk involved with it, yeah, you just reach a whole nother level of detachment from your things. And it is awesome. And it's so good. And it makes it easy not to reaccumulate things. And your house is just such a breeze to take care of and maintain. So keep going. I'm so proud of you though, and the work that you have done, because I mean, it really does change everything. And so what you're doing for yourself and your family is, I truly believe you're just going to look back and be like, wow, I'm so glad we did that, because it just continues to pay off year after year after year.
I have been a hoarder for most of my life, but I'm slowly letting go of things, decluttering, understanding the onion method. You have no idea how much you have helped me and have my home be able to breathe. My question today is, how do you stop the overwhelming fear of letting go of things that people have given you? I feel guilty at times when I've got rid of things, but I don't necessarily want them or use them, but I feel so guilty. I really hope you can help.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you asked this question, because I know this is something that comes up for many other women. So thank you for being willing to share that and for articulating it so well. And again, I'm so proud of you too. I mean, to come from a history and a background of hoarding to being able to work through it and to do the hard work to be able to part with things and to start to make progress, that is no small feat. And I'm so proud of you. So proud of you. Well done. Now, gifts get tricky, right? And I want to link to and refer back to an interview that I did with Natalie Hoffman from Flying Free. And she talked about IFS, which is internal family systems. And I mean, it's a huge topic now that's becoming more popular in the, therapy world and whatnot. But it's this idea that we have different parts to us. And these parts are, very much formed throughout our childhood and upbringing. And many of us have these people pleaser parts. We have this part that has developed over our lifetime. They'll say if we develop something like this, it's because it kept us safe. Like there is a reason behind it. There's nothing wrong with any of us if we have these parts that, just want to make people happy, because there might have been something about that kept us safe while we were growing up. And so it's very logical. It just totally makes sense why we developed that. However, we get to a point in our life where this is no longer serving us. And again, we could see it pop up with when we're having a hard time letting go of certain types of items or gifts, things that have been given to us that we've inherited. Even things if people had said, oh, that's so special, you have to keep it, or implied that, well, that's very valuable, or I spent a lot of money on that, or do you know what I had to give up for you to have this? And so, and then we could see it in other places too, where we, always give in to what other people want. We don't speak up for ourselves and, for where we want to go for dinner or other things, and, much bigger things too. So we see it in a lot of different areas, but absolutely when you're thinking about getting rid of something, and then that fear of what is the other person going to think, and what happens if they come over and they no longer see this in my home. And so what's interesting though is that decluttering can actually be a way to challenge this part of you and to work through this maybe unhealthy dynamic now that you have. And again, unhealthy, I don't even want to use that word. It's kind of strong. Again, it's just like, it's not serving me anymore. It's causing me to keep things in my home that I don't actually want. And so it's just not serving us. Again, nothing wrong with any of us when we feel this, but decluttering can actually help us to work through this. And so I received an email just recently. And so I actually want to read it to you really quick because I think it ties in here to what we're talking about. So this was from a friend who said, I have wound myself up in toxic relationships due to childhood trauma and severe codependency. I tried everything I could get my hands on to cure the codependency. Books, courses, therapy, nothing worked. As I began to declutter my home, a huge shift started to manifest in my life, a shift I hadn't expected. Of course, I felt the peace from a clean and simple home, but I experienced a miracle in my emotional life. Decluttering cured my codependency. My mind is blown. Learning the art and flexing the muscle of letting go over and over gave me the ability to let go of toxicity in my relationships without even trying. I was able to let go of relationships that were destroying my health. I'm learning more and more about mind-body connection, and decluttering has healed me in so many ways. I wanted to write and thank you. I am changed. I am healthier, freer, and I have peace I didn't feel was possible. Letting go can affect so many aspects of our life. Isn't that just so cool? And so what I would recommend is to start with the gifts that are the least threatening. So what things might you be able to declutter that, likely would go unnoticed? No one would walk into your house and be like, where did that, big hutch go, right? You're like, I'm going to get rid of the greeting cards and the small gifts or things that feel a little less consequential. And I would start there. As we go, then we can start to imagine like, okay, now I am going to get rid of this bigger thing. There is the possibility that they could come over and see that it's gone. And so what would I say? And you can kind of role play with yourself and be like, okay, well, because you want to be prepared. We don't want to get caught off guard, right? And so you would say like, okay, well, I would tell them, thank you. That gift was so thoughtful. And I was really grateful to receive it. However, it was no longer serving me, or I no longer had the space for it, or I thought someone else could make better use of it. So I did decide to part with it. Then we have to be able to stand back and let them have their response, whatever it's going to be, and realize that their response is in no way a reflection of us. It's a reflection of them in their inner world. And this is much easier said than done, right? Like it's very easy for me just to sit here and be like, don't worry. I mean, even if they respond in a very negative way, it's not you, right? It's them. And it's like, we know that logically, but that fear is like, that's deep, right? Like these internal family systems, ideas, and these different roles we play, they run deep. So it might take some practice. But often, what's the statistic? Like 90% of the things we fear never actually come to pass. So I would hate for you to continue to keep these things in your home and to continue to house them and to stress over them and worry about them when chances are the person is not ever going to notice. They're not going to say anything. It's not actually going to be a big deal, but we have built it up in our head to be something. So I would start small and work your way up. And also I'd love to hear back in the future if this has been helpful for you, or if anyone else, if you've experienced this, how it's worked out for you, and if you've been able to build strength in this area over time. If you have any thoughts or experiences around that, if you would share that in the comments, that is so helpful. So thank you in advance for that. But I'm excited for you. I think the work you've done already is really setting you up for success in this area too. And it's intimidating and it's scary, but I think you're going to be able to do it, and I think it's going to feel so good when you do.
Hi, Dawn. It's Renee from Michigan. And my question is, what's the longest amount of time you have ever gone without cleaning?
Oh, Renee. Uh, I'm trying to tell him, like, either you know me really well and you know it's been I can go long stretches, or you don't know me that well and you're like, let me blow your mind with how long I could go without cleaning my house. I don't know. I can go long stretches without cleaning, though. I don't care really about cleaning. See, I separate tidying and cleaning. Cleaning, like scrubbing floors and washing windows, and just like that's what I'm thinking of cleaning. Tidying up, now I need my house tidy. I need it picked up, otherwise it's stressful. But the cleaning, could not care less. I've shared before that growing up, I always am. I love my mom so much, so I never wanted it to ever sound like I am getting it down on her, because I would not trade my parents or my childhood for anyone or anyone else in the world ever, anything, right? I'm so grateful for it, and it's made me who I am today. So, mom, like, this is not a guilt thing ever, right? But our house was messy. It was dirty growing up. We lived on a farm. It was dirty, right? I mean, um, not unsanitary though. Let me say that. Let me clarify that. We're not talking like, and again, even if you grow up like that, that happens too, right? Like, we're all doing the best that we can. Anyways, I still don't really have a value for cleaning, except after reading The Monk's Guide to a Clean House. I do look at it differently and I enjoy it more now. I see it as kind of a form of almost self-care, right? Of giving our brains time to process. But up until real recently, I could not care less about cleaning. I mean, I would probably mop the floor once a year. I don't know, twice a year. It was just like spot cleaning. I had no schedule. I really did not care. It would be like, oh, people are coming over, I have to clean the shower, and so I was grateful for those occasions, right? Now we do have a cleaning gal that comes every 2 weeks, and it's awesome. I love it because it just forces us to stay up on everything, and it's been really nice. And I love that the shower gets cleaned regularly and the floors get mopped regularly. Like, that's great. I like that. I just never, it was never enough of a priority to me. But what I have learned is that as we have decluttered and simplified our house is so easy to manage now. And you really can get to a point where cleaning is enjoyable. And I've definitely found that when I do have to clean, I'm not like grumbly about it. I mean, we still clean in between when Linda comes, because you'll still wipe down mirrors and vanities and you're just like, why? Why is there, what is this, right? But it's very easy now because I don't have to declutter and tidy and put everything away first. I can literally just wipe down the vanity, right? I mean, I put a few things away, wipe down the mirrors, wipe down, sweep the floor. I even mop sometimes for fun, but it's still not my natural bent, and it's still not something I put a ton of extra time and energy into. And so there you go. I don't know if that's helpful at all, but those are my thoughts on cleaning. And I also used to get down on people that spent a lot of time cleaning, because I'm just like, why would you spend all that time and energy? But now I really respect them, and I can see, I think it can be therapeutic and just an enjoyable process at times. So I understand it. There is something about physically cleaning that helps us to mentally straighten up things as well. So I think that's awesome. And I also really like that we live in a time now where I think it's okay to be either way, to be naturally clean or naturally not, and it's fine, right? No one else has to live in our house, so it's totally fine.
I was just asking about decluttering when you have a child with special needs, specifically autism. He doesn't understand why things are getting moved, and he has a significant attachment to many of his big toys that take up a lot of space. We are trying to figure out how to simplify our home and move a lot of our playtime outside, but he still likes to play with a lot of his big sets.
This is a really good question, and it comes up really frequently. And I can't speak from personal experience, but I have learned so much from the other moms around me. And this is a very tricky one because, on one hand, we know that kids with autism, ADD, ADHD, ODD, OCD, they actually thrive in highly simplified spaces. When you think about our brains and we're constantly scanning around us for threats. We're taking everything in. We're processing the sights and the sounds and the smells and everything. It's a lot, right? And so then when we add on some of these other things, it's really a lot for some of our kids. And so by highly simplifying the environment, they usually do very well in that type of setting. In fact, I have yet to hear a story of a mom that simplified and then said, "Oh no, it wasn't effective. It didn't help. We need everything back." I never ever hear that. So it's tricky because we know they will thrive in a highly simplified environment. And also, they tend to have different attachments to their things. And we did get to visit with Lori from Simply Be Organized recently. So we'll link to her podcast. And her daughter has ADHD and also had some of these like really strong attachments to things. And so I'll definitely direct you back to that conversation that we had too. And really, what Lori talked about and what I've experienced from other women is that we have to figure out which tactic works for our child and their uniqueness. And as the parent, you have to be analyzing for, are they still they still play with it, but is it like very infrequently, or is it like they play with it every week, yet they will play with it for multiple hours? Well, then we might want to keep it. If they're actually playing with it and using it and enjoy it, and sometimes it's not age appropriate, but for whatever they just connect with it and they like it, then we might decide to keep it. So you have to look for, okay, what things are they actually playing with? What things aren't they? And now the things that aren't, those are the things I want to try and work with them to figure out a way to part with. Another thing that can be helpful is time will tell bins. Container concept. We can keep all of the toys that fit in this part of your closet or this part of the family room, going slowly. So one thing at a time leaves the space. Like you said, like they get very confused, like where did all this stuff go? So it's one item a day. It's continuing to practice with them to talk about, okay, we can keep the most special things, but we can't have your whole floor covered, or we want to still be able to see part of the top of the dresser, or these shelves, you get to keep anything you want, but in this part of the closet, this is just for clothes. So we're not going to cram other stuff in here. And it's this ongoing conversation. And one of the things Lori said was a little bit at a time. And we need to keep it a positive process. But also, I know it can be easy to just shut the door and say, it just is what it is. I don't have the energy for this, like, which is fair. And none of us would blame you, right? But it's to continually keep having the conversation, to keep figuring out a way that works for them, and to trust that even if you make a mistake, that you are going to apologize and you are going to make it up to them. We don't want to get to the point where we're like afraid to remove anything from their room. If one thing is a mistake, that we don't then say, oh, well, now I can't touch anything, right? That we understand that this is going to be a process where we're all learning and we're trying to figure it out. None of us have done this before. Okay. And so there could be the chance of making a mistake. But again, because I know my child would really do well in a highly simplified space, I want to keep working with them and pushing through.
Hi, Dawn. I just wanted to say that I really admire you. And thanks to you, I have simplified my home over the last 3 years and never looked back at the stuff we got rid of. My spending habits have even changed, which led also to my mindset of spending my time on things I really enjoy, like my family. I have a 6, 4, and 1-year-old who's about to be 2. The 3 kids share rooms, and while I have simplified our home, including the kids' toys, my 1-year-old tends to pull and dump everything out. Is there a better way to manage the toys for my older kids, where my youngest doesn't always get into everything? Or can you just remind me again, it's only for a season?
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, man. It is just hard. Now our youngest is 9, and it's like toys are like just so not even an issue. And it feels like it was just yesterday where it was like, okay, everybody has to pick up. Come on. So yes, you're right. It is a short season. I'm wondering if you can store things up higher. Have them out of reach for your 1 almost 2-year-old, because it is frustrating for everyone. I would also continue to reevaluate the inventory. Even for 4 and 6-year-olds, they need so little in regards to toys. And I'm so proud of you and the work that you've done already. It sounds like you are totally on the right track. Like, way to go. That is just so cool. And I'm sure you are experiencing the benefits and you're like, so you understand. And hopefully then when I say like, hey, you could probably go further with the toys, that no one is going to miss them. I mean, I look back now and we really did have a small toy selection and we could have got by with even less. And it's been so fun, even recently. The boys, I had like a bunch of toilet paper rolls saved up, and then I just said like, hey, you want to create something with this, and masking tape, and they had some popsicle sticks, and Gage made this like whole little truck out of cardboard and the toilet paper rolls and popsicle sticks and some straws and tape, and it was so cool. And so what we have to remember is that kids are happiest when they're creating. And now I'm not saying get lots of crafts supplies and all. No, I'm saying give them very basic things like cardboard boxes and masking tape and some markers, and just let them create. And so that's why I love toys that are open-ended, blocks, Legos, Duplos, Magnetiles, because they're creating. That's why kids can really get engrossed in those things for a long time, because they're creating. It's not doing it for them. And so you might even pack away more toys for right now. And again, you can tell your older two, like, hey, it's just for a little bit till she stops pulling everything out or whatever. But I'm guessing you'll never pull them back out again and they won't miss it. But continue to give your kids things that they can just create with. They can sit at the kitchen table or wherever where they're out of reach, or the counter, and just let them create. And I just feel like I truly believe that is when kids are most content and they're most happy. They're most engrossed in play. Do they create messes? Yeah, for sure. Like our living room was like destroyed after the boys were like making these creations, but it was fine. They cleaned it up. So I'm not saying that's not without its own type of mess, but I do think they're the happiest then. So if possible, maybe move stuff up out of her reach. Don't be afraid to go further with decluttering your toys. And if you're just, taking the mindset, we're just going to pack them away for this season. Let your kids create. And yeah, it is a pretty short time. Man, it goes fast. I know everyone said that when our kids were little. They're like, don't blink, it'll be over. And I'm like, okay, like whatever. I'm kind of ready, right? But it is true. It goes super fast. So again, awesome work though. I'm so proud of everyone that we heard messages from today. It's not easy. Decluttering your house is not easy, but man, it is truly the most worthwhile thing that I have done. And I am just so grateful for it. And it just continues to pay off. And I really, there's so many days when we're busy and there's a lot going on where I'm just like, I could not imagine like if we still had all that stuff in our house. It's too hard. It makes everything too hard. So I'm excited for you. I'm proud of you. Keep going. It really does just keep getting better and better.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you're looking for more support, be sure to check out The Minimal Mom on YouTube too. And we'll see you next time.